Hi, my name is Brooke. This is Karen. We are talking about one of my favorite things this week, surrender. Does that conjure up good images for you? For me, it conjures up images of my older brothers wrestling until one of them was in so much pain that they yelled, "I surrender!" And then they would storm off to separate locations and not speak for a couple days. So the thought of surrender sounds like giving up, giving in, you've done all you can do, and now you've been defeated, you've lost. And when I hear that God's inviting us to surrender, I just think, no thanks. I don't want to do that. But the kind of surrender God is talking about is very different. It's this place of letting go and letting Him have control. Because I think we tend to think we have a lot more control than we actually have anyway. It's sort of like stepping back and realizing, there's so much that I have no control over, and it's a good thing because I know God. God knows so much more than me, and I can give all of this to Him. I can surrender what I thought it had to look like, what I thought I had to do, what I thought all these people around me had to be that I actually have no control over. And I can hand that to Jesus and just trust Him.
And when we look at Joseph's life, he was surrounded by circumstances that he had absolutely no control over. And I think he could have lived that 13 years in constantly striving for control that he never had and never would achieve. He could have done that, but he didn't. He lived in that place of surrender. And I think it comes from that place of contentment where he realized he wasn't in control, but he realized there was somebody who was in ultimate control that he could trust. And that's the key word right there, is trust. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to surrender to somebody you don't trust. You may acquiesce. You may surrender by compulsion, but to surrender as an act of your heart, an act of your will, that requires trust. And Joseph knew God. He knew the God of his dreams, and he knew He was good. And I'm sure that there were times in that in-between time between when he got the dreams and then the palace where he was in the pit, he was in jail, he was falsely accused, that it got pretty dark, and wondered, are things going to turn out? Because Joseph was human. But he would come back to a place of surrender. Come back to the place, look, I can't fix this. I can't change this. I'm going to have to surrender my ideas, my striving, the way I thought this picture was going to turn out. And I'm going to have to surrender that into the hands of the God I know is good. And allow Him to paint the picture how He chooses. And that is when God's peace enters our life, is when we stop striving and we surrender into the hands of God. Not just surrender, but surrender into the hands of God. And so I want to invite you to discover the grace that God gives us, like Joseph discovered. The grace, the power God gives us to be who we are called to be. To do what we're called to do, even in the middle of the mess, even when things go dark, the lights go out. Come join us in discovering this. It strengthens our story. Follow the links below and discover the power in surrender.